Welcome to another episode of The Art Patient. Thank you for joining me. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about fat, saturated fat, and just giving you a few facts. It seems this is one of the areas where people who start off on their health journey get really confused, especially with the media and the medical cartels being involved. I'm going to do my best to explain it and tell you why you should never go to Greggs again. In saturated fat, you have, let's just say, a ladder, easiest way. In a saturated fat, you have a ladder of carbons. They're all carbons. Either side, attached to them, either side, are hydrogens. All the way along, hydrogen. Fat is comprised of hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen on the one end, right? So we have oxygen, we have an oxygen here, so we have an hydrogen, a carbon, and two oxygen, right? That is the only reason they're allowed to call this a fatty acid. It's also called, again, this gets confusing if you're not careful, it's called a fatty acid. The only reason is because there's oxygens here, okay? So this is saturated fat. It's saturated. It's saturated with hydrogens, okay? That's it. That's saturated fat. Animals and people are full of saturated fat. When we store fat, ladies, when you store fat, you store it in this system. Now, I'm about to explain why you store it in saturated and you don't store unsaturated. The one that you've been told is really healthy for you. Okay? So, if you eat animal products, this is the fat you're eating. Now, there's nothing wrong with it at all, okay? There's something quite magical about this fat, which I'll come on to. Now, what's the difference, okay? Simple. Carbons in the middle, hydrogens either side, all the way along. Right. It can be a short chain, that's the chain, or it can be a medium chain, or a short chain, hence the term short chain fatty acid. There's a fatty acid, hydrogen, carbon and oxygens on the one end, right? This is the omega end. They're using the Greek alphabet. Like I said, all this stuff gets confusing when different bodies start talking about it. Educational bodies. It's the omega end of the fat. There. Right. What's the difference between saturated fat, saturated with hydrogens, and an omega-3 or an omega-6, the so-called super healthy fats? Let's have a look. We have the same makeup again. We have the chain, and here's the difference. 1, 2, 3. Here it's missing an hydrogen. Okay? 1, 2, 3 in. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? Same thing again. These are all carbons in the middle. These are your hydrogens. Your hydrogens are attached to it. But here, there are no hydrogens there. They're missing. Here, what it does, it puts a CIS bond in to connect it. That there is a CIS bond. Now a CIS bond is of extreme importance because this, the human body, only has enzymes for CIS bonds. Now remember, if it's not got a CIS bond, you cannot use it. It gets stored, right? And that's what the relationship with Greggs. Now, many years ago, a few scientists got together and constructed a big machine called an hydrogenator. It fires hydrogen at a normal vegetable oil. They take a vegetable oil and they fire hydrogens at it. Okay? This creates trans fat. Okay? This is an omega-3. Because the CIS bond is 1, 2, 3 in. Okay? Here it lacks. There are no hydrogens. Okay? The hydrogens here and here are missing. Either side of the CIS bond. So either side of that CIS bond, on the same side, that's important, on the same side, I hope you're still with me, on the same side, this side, the two hydrogens are missing. So it becomes an omega-3. They're using the Greek alphabet from this side back, right? You can also have, yes, you can also have an omega-6. So it'd be here. The hydrogen will be missing on the 6th, on the number 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the hydrogen will be missing here. And the fat would kick off again in another shape. That's what gives these fats this bent shape. That's nature, that's how it works. Okay, now you can also have an omega-9 and an omega-12 and an omega-15. There will be an omega-15. There has to be at some point. They haven't found it yet, but that is not to say they won't find it. Why are they stored? Why are we talking in threes? Because triglycerides that your liver makes, your liver takes fat and it converts the fat into a triglyceride. Now a triglyceride, tri means 3, has a backbone of glycerine, which is a glucose molecule. So you have 3 fats, three carbon fats attached to a backbone of glucose. Okay? And it becomes known as a triglyceride. It's stored in threes. This is when your body stores that fat for a rainy day. Now, saturated fat gets stored for a rainy day and it can be turned into triglycerides by the liver. So if you eat trans fat, ladies in particular, you will notice the dimpling effect on the back of your thighs. and on your bum. The reason why it's on the back of your thighs and your bum is because the body sees trans fat or hydrogenated fat as a toxic product. It stores it and surrounds it by, the liver makes saturated fat and tries to hide away the trans fat, because like I say, you've got no CIS enzymes to break it down. You can do nothing with it. It's stored as far away from the internal organs as possible. You will find saturated fat around your heart and fat streaks around it, and your abdomen and your kidneys and your liver. You will find saturated fat there, but trans fat is stored as far away from the internal organs as possible because your body treats it as a toxic product. Also, the lymphatic system gets clogged and it doesn't drain as well, which leads to the dimpling you've probably got on your ass, ladies. It's more of a problem with women because of the estrogen production, but that's a story for another day. I mean, I ain't got time to talk about that now. With that said, it will be stored as far away from those internal organs as possible because the body tries to keep you alive. Now, going back to omega-3s, 6s and 9s, you will find them in fish and you will find them in all plant-based oils. That's how nature operates. They always have that CIS bond on them. It's saturated fat that doesn't have that CIS bond. Okay? And the fat takes on a different shape, see, and your body can store it then as, like I said, triglyceride. Whilst we're on the subject, if you think about it, we're talking about carbons and hydrogens, and carbon and hydrogen make carbohydrates. So everything you can see here by looking at the diagram, everything's interrelated, so your liver, the biggest internal organ, can do things with them, see. And you come back to, if you're eating lots and lots of carbohydrates during the day, like pasta or rice, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them per se, and then you're eating lots of saturated fat, you've got far too many hydrogens and carbons, see. And so that vast amounts are going to get stored as triglycerides, and they're going to get converted by the liver. Now, there are some omega-3s and 6s that require no conversion by the liver, such as coconut fats they're instant energy, they require no conversion. So it just really tells you what nature's doing. If a man-made fat, a trans fat, or with a big machine, if that is stored on you in a faraway place like your bum or the backs of your legs, and a simple coconut is instant energy in your saliva, in your mouth, directly into your bloodstream, it tells you everything about what's going on, doesn't it? So I hope you've got a better understanding. But like I say, ladies, if it's your health journey, just check all the products, because as long as they're making money, they'll keep making the products. When you remove yourself from when you're no longer a consumer of their products, they go away, they fade away, and they move on to the next thing.